Welcome back, everybody. This is Kelly at the Paint Chronicles, and today we are going to be doing a long but speedy painting. This is probably the longest video I've put together so far, around 16 minutes. We're going to be painting some bookmarks of the Allegheny National Forest and Mountain Range. What I've done here is I've taken a piece of Academy Cold Press 300 GSM paper and taped it down because I will be using a lot of water this time around. I've wet the paper and you can barely see any color in it at all, but it has a slight blue, green, gray color tint to it. I just wanted it to be slightly a different color than white, and then we'll gradually be getting darker as we do the mountain ranges. I'm using my Chandler handy mini heat gun that I absolutely love and dried it up. And now I'm going to be mixing together off to the side some more paint, a slightly darker color, but not too dramatically different. As you can see me here applying another coat, starting off with 3 bookmarks. And I'm just kind of giving it a little bit of a rounded edge there just to symbolize a far away mountain. When you're painting mountains or something in a distance, and as it gets closer, you want the farther away pieces to be a lighter color than the ones that are closer to you. You want those to be the darkest. So I've gone ahead and put a coat down here. I am using my Daniel Smith watercolor tube paint, and I'm just drying it up again here. I am using, for the wettest portion of the painting, my Kristy Rice Unshakeable Joy brush that you've heard me mention many times, just because it covers so much and it does such a good job. And you'll see me there just testing out to make sure it's completely dry. I make sure that it's completely dry before I go on to the next color in the next section, because I don't want them to blend and bleed together. I want them to be a definite, strong edge to them so there's no blurriness. Now, if you look at the paint on the paper, I'm noticing it's a little bit grainy. And I think this is because I was using some paint, some green paint that had dried on my palette. And I'd used it so many times. I hate to waste paint. Absolutely hate it. And I think most of watercolor painters do. We all feel the same, so we try to reuse. And I think at this point, this paint is, the palette's ready to be cleaned off. But I'm making the best of it as I can and giving it one more go before I wipe it off. So you notice the tone is just a little bit darker here with each time I go over it. And I also need to figure out a way to get my palette in there a little bit closer. Now, my palette, my Daniel Smith palette, is huge. It's large. It's about 1 to 1.5 feet long, and then it opens up. It actually had an extra tray that came with it, and a family member of mine went ahead and cut it perfectly so it would fit in one side. I'll definitely show you guys one day. I absolutely love the paint palette, but this is why I also love my travel stuff, because it's not very portable at all. And here I am putting on a third coat, again, getting a little darker. And the type of tape I use is just your regular Walmart painter's tape. I have it in different thicknesses because I'm making a bookmark. I did go with a thinner one this time around. And I have my little scrap paper there to the side to keep testing out my colors. And I'm just also off to the side mixing some more after I go ahead and dry this up. The Pennsylvania Allegheny Mountains are a part of the larger Appalachian Plateau. It's a province of the Appalachian Highlands, which runs from Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia to Virginia. Some gorgeous mountain areas. Virginia has some beautiful hiking trails if you ever get that way, but the Pennsylvania mountains are my favorite portion of the chain of mountains. And here I go again with another fourth layer. Now this one was a little harder for me to get a clear color change and difference. I was really struggling with the paint that I made a little bit. No matter how much more pigment I seemed to add to the mix, I just couldn't get it dark enough without making it too dark, because I do plan to put some trees on the bottom section. So you need to make it so it's not too dark so you can't see those trees at all. The forests in the mountains of Allegheny cover 513,000 acres of land that's managed by the U.S. Department of Agricultural Forest Service. And we have seen them out there at times. There are times where rocks will actually fall onto the road off of the mountains. And we saw a bunch of the servicemen at that point redirecting traffic. And now I'm just mixing up in my favorite little flower ceramic dish here the color that I'm going to use for the trees. Now I'm making it dark, but not darkest yet. I tried to look up some information on the Allegheny Mountains and Forest, and I found out that Allegheny actually means beautiful stream in most Native American languages. It probably comes from the Lenape language, which means best flowing river of the hills, because there is a river that does run through the forest and the mountains. And that's why probably in the 1800s, Western settlers came to the area for the tall white pine trees that grew in the valleys of the mountains. And they would start logging mills, wood mills. And that's really what pulled the settlers into the area. Also in 1880s, there was a boom for railroad logging after oil was found. So there was a high demand to log as much as they possibly could. That brought a lot of settlers out that way, especially from Sweden. In the 1930s, recreation pulled people into the area. Leisure time, people who were profiting off of the lumber and mills came to the area because it's so beautiful there for hunting, fishing, hiking, camping, sightseeing, a wide range of activities that you could do there to get away for a little bit. But then, after all the logging and using all of the forest's natural resources, in 1923, there was a conservation period of time because all of the natural resources in the region had been exhausted and timber was actually pretty sparse. The wildlife was suffering. So they did an act to protect the area, launching laws and regulations to address environmental problems in the area. And I'm just painting in some pine trees here. I'm doing okay with the pine trees. I'm getting much better than I used to be. Before, they used to just look like blobs of logs, and now they actually have a little bit of definition. I am struggling with this paint though, so I definitely need to wipe off the palette when I'm done with it. I'm trying to make it dark so it stands out from that last layer of mountains. And this last one that I'm doing on this bookmark, I was dipping into even the black, I think lamp black. Trying to get it to symbolize to be the closest object on the painting. There's a couple of different ways to paint pine trees though. This just happens to be my favorite. Perhaps I'll do a video on the different ways. Some people use a zigzag pattern. Some people go straight across. I kind of like the V shape, like go down and curl up a little bit, go down and curl up a little bit. And I'm using my NicPro Detail brushes at this point. This is a really tiny brush. I think it's the number 0. You really want to use your smallest detail brush when you're trying to do pine trees like this. Otherwise, they just blend into one another and you have no definition. And I'm working on the second one here. And this video was actually pretty long. I've sped it up a pretty good amount. So you guys get the benefit of seeing the end without having to watch me paint each individual tree. And here's one that I was struggling to get darker. The Allegheny National Park also has the slogan or nickname of Land of Many Uses. It was before the logging and the use of the natural resources. It was healthy, a working forest that provided lots of timber and wood products. There was woodshed protection, access to underground minerals. And because of that, that's how it got its name, Land of Many Uses. In this area, there's also a couple of folktale stories. One, the Moon People. Apparently, the Cherokee Indians thought that people could only come out at night, these moon people, and their eyes would glow a white yellow color, and they would have to do their hunting and fishing at night because their eyes were too sensitive to the sun. And that's how they got the name Moon People. But more than likely, they were Western settlers. And also, there's something called a wampus cat, which apparently I couldn't find out too many details of it, but this one I'd actually heard from someone when getting gas one time when driving through the area. A wampus cat was a woman who was cursed by an Indian shaman and turned into a uh, mountain lion type of creature with 6 legs instead of 4. And now it wanders the forest at night. And I'm coming up here, and at this point, I'm a little frustrated with the paint that I'm using, although I really liked that one tree I did on the second bookmark, and I've decided to go ahead and just keep it at 2. So I'm heating it up and drying it for me to be able to peel the tape off soon. And then I will finish up the bookmarks. It was a nice and fun, relaxing painting to work on, though, and I do give the bookmarks away pretty frequently. And so I've gone ahead and peeled the tape off. Luckily, it didn't rip it all. I do need to trim that one. It's a little thick on one side. And I'm just punching holes in them. And then I have my green ribbon. I need to pick up some more ribbon if I keep going at this rate. And I'll tie it around the top. And then on the back side, I don't normally paint it. I normally write a well wish to whoever I am giving the bookmark to with a date, and I sign it and give them a well wish or a Bible verse on the back side. And that is it, guys. Thank you so much for coming on this journey with me today as we went to the Allegheny Mountains, sort of, and we painted these bookmarks. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you soon.